What a fleet captain is in Star Trek, and why Pike doesn't become an admiral instead. Starfleet's ranks can be a strange, shifting lattice of tradition, naval precedent, and dramatic convenience. Admirals loom large over the franchise, captains sit in the center seat commanding their ships with swagger, and even the occasional Commodore saunters in to stir the pot. But nestled between the more famous ranks is one of Star Trek's most unusual and least used titles, Fleet Captain. It's a designation used so rarely that it almost feels like a myth, yet it carries major implications for Christopher Pike, especially as Strange New Worlds continues to chart his future. Understanding why Pike becomes a fleet captain, and notably not an admiral, requires diving into Star Trek canon, meta history, and the character's unique destiny. The mystery of the fleet captain rank. In Star Trek's long history, fleet captain is almost an anomaly. It has appeared only a handful of times across the entire franchise, so few, in fact, that many fans aren't even aware the rank exists. Unlike Rear Admiral or Captain, Fleet Captain never received a clear, official breakdown in the shows. There was no dramatic pinning ceremony, no briefing room lecture laying out its purpose, and no uniform variation specifically tied to it. Instead, it was mostly referenced indirectly. The most important reference occurs in the original series, The Menagerie, which reveals that Christopher Pike eventually becomes a fleet captain prior to his catastrophic accident. Additionally, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and a few materials outside the main shows mention the title, but it has never become a regular on-screen rank. Because of the scarcity of examples, Trek fans have pieced together what the role likely means by looking at naval traditions and the context in which fleet captain is mentioned. What real-world naval tradition suggests? In maritime history, a fleet captain is typically a senior captain assigned to coordinate multiple vessels, an operational overseer, not a desk-bound administrator, a tactical leader, often working closely with a flag officer such as an admiral, but not holding the flag rank themselves. This makes a fleet captain someone who leads from the front, still commanding a ship, still in active operations, but also responsible for multiple units within a fleet. It is, effectively, a hybrid between a captain and an admiral. So why does that matter for Pike? Because it creates a perfect narrative and thematic bridge between his personality, his destiny, and Starfleet's hierarchy. Why Pike never becomes an admiral? For decades, fans have noticed an interesting gap between Pike's potential and his ultimate trajectory. Many Starfleet legends move upward. Kirk eventually becomes an admiral even if he doesn't like it. Picard receives admiral offers, Janeway becomes a vice admiral, and so on. It's the natural path for a highly respected and decorated captain. But Pike, one of the most talented, cool-headed, and respected officers in Starfleet, never takes that step. Instead, canon makes it clear. He becomes a fleet captain and then experiences the accident that changes him forever. Pike's personality doesn't fit admiralty life. Unlike many other captains, Pike is defined by his humility, compassion, and personal connection to his crew. Admirals in the Trek universe tend to operate strategically and bureaucratically. They call the shots from the sidelines. They deal with politics. They send other people to do the dangerous work. None of that fits Pike's ethos. Pike is a boots-on-the-ground commander, someone who thrives in the Starship Bridge environment, not the boardroom of Starfleet Command. Strange New Worlds constantly highlights how much he values his crew, relationships, and hands-on leadership. He's a teacher, a mentor, and a moral anchor. That simply doesn't translate well to the Admiralty. If Pike were ever promoted to Admiral, it would drag him away from the very thing that defines him, being in the chair. Starfleet sees that too. Starfleet has different plans for Pike. In universe, Pike has a reputation for being one of the most strategically brilliant captains in Starfleet. He's not just good with one starship, he's good at managing situations involving multiple ships, multiple crews, and large-scale operations. That skill set makes him far more valuable as a fleet captain than as an admiral. As a fleet captain, he can coordinate squadrons, mentor captains, and run major missions while remaining active in the field. Admirals may direct wars, but fleet captains win them. This distinction allows Starfleet to harness Pike's greatest strengths without burying him in bureaucracy. Admiralty often comes with moral compromises. Across Star Trek, admirals frequently find themselves depicted as politically compromised, strategically distant, occasionally outright antagonistic. The trope is so consistent that Rogue Starfleet Admiral is almost a genre in itself. Pike, by contrast, is a moral hero, someone whose clarity and decency anchor the ideals of the Federation, putting him in a role where he might be forced to compromise, to take morally ambiguous positions, or to bend under political pressure simply wouldn't fit the character. Fleet Captain allows him seniority without contamination. What a fleet captain actually does in the Star Trek universe, because it's so rarely portrayed, the fleet captain title has an air of mystery, but based on canon and logic, its responsibilities likely include 1. Leading multiple starships in joint operations. A fleet captain would have authority over a group of vessels assigned to a task force or mission. This might include humanitarian operations, border patrol, exploratory missions beyond known space, fleet-level defensive engagements. Pike's diplomatic skill, tactical brilliance, and empathy make him ideal for coordinating teams of captains. 2. Acting as an expert troubleshooter. Fleet captains would be dispatched to handle complex crises, situations too big for a single ship, dangerous first contact scenarios, large-scale scientific anomalies. SNW consistently shows Pike excelling in precisely these situations. 3. Serving as a mentor to other captains. Starfleet heavily values mentorship, and Pike is portrayed as one of the great mentors of his era, particularly to Spock, Kirk, and many others who follow. As fleet captain, his role would include evaluating captains, advising new commanders, guiding strategic planning across sectors. In other words, his influence becomes larger, but remains personal, not bureaucratic. 4. Retaining starship command, a key difference from admirals. This may be the most important distinction. Admirals almost never command operational starships. Fleet captains almost always do. Pike, who lives for the command chair, would never willingly give that up. Starfleet wouldn't want him to. Fleet captain is the answer to both needs. Why Fleet captain sets up Pike's canonical future. Strange New Worlds is navigating a narrative tightrope with Pike. The audience knows what awaits him, the accident that leaves him severely disabled and ultimately ends his career. But before that moment, Pike reaches a position of enormous respect, fleet captain, which reinforces the tragedy of his fate. This rank accomplishes 3 storytelling goals. 1. It elevates Pike to his proper legendary status. Fleet captain isn't just a promotion, it's a recognition that Pike sits among Starfleet's greatest. It signals prestige, responsibility, and importance, all things the franchise wants viewers to associate with him before his fall. The rank makes it clear that Pike didn't just stagnate or stand still in his career. He soared. 2. It places him exactly where canon needs him. Inspecting training vessels, the menagerie reveals that Pike is seriously injured while saving cadets from a